This is a naked mole rat. You've got 30 seconds to laugh at this sausage with teeth before it makes you wish you could live as long as it does. Naked mole rats can live up to 30 years. If that number doesn't scare you yet, that's fine. Let me explain. This is you. You hit puberty at 16 and can start having kids. You live to about 80, by which point you're falling apart and barely hanging on. Now, take your lifespan and divide it by the age you could first have kids. You get a number. And that's how scientists compare lifespans across species. For you, it's 5. A dog's is 12. So what about the naked mole rat? You take 30 and divide it by half a year. Yeah, it can have kids at 6 months old. So what do you get? Yup, 60. Meaning if you were built like a mole rat, you'd live to 960 and still look 16. Sounds fake, I know. So why does something that looks like your pet hamster after a nuclear accident live this long? For starters, they basically don't get cancer. A few cases have turned up tumors, but that's about as common as finding a fish that drowned. Naked mole rats live in tunnel systems deep underground, and down there, you're up against two things: sky-high CO2 and almost no oxygen. Either one kills you in minutes. So how did these guys crack it? This is you. This is a plant. You burn glucose for energy, and that needs oxygen. The plant turns fructose into energy. No oxygen needed. And the naked mole rat? With oxygen, it burns glucose, just like you. Without oxygen, it switches to burning fructose, just like a plant. Problem solved. So why didn't you evolve the same trick? Because you're not falling into water or getting stuck in a chimney every day. It'd be like paying 10 grand a month for a bunker you're never going to use. Okay, so what about the sky-high CO2? At those levels, it's like living in acid, in pain, your whole life. The mole rat just completely switched off its ability to feel that acid burn. You'd be writhing in agony. It's just sitting there grinning. Speaking of that grin, 25% of its muscle is in its jaw. That's the same as one of your legs. So instead of showing off quads, these guys flex their jaw gains. No leg day to skip. And its two lower front teeth move independently, like chopsticks, for fighting, carrying, digging, and chewing through solid rock. Wondering how they dig without eating a mouthful of dirt? Instead of growing their lips in front of their teeth like you, these guys tuck their lips inside, between mouth and teeth. So when they dig, the lips seal shut, which raises the question of how they kiss. Yeah, no idea. But that's not even it. These guys have one last trick. This is you. When it's hot, you sweat to cool down. When it's cold, you shiver to warm up. Problem is, the more energy you burn, the faster you age. This is the naked mole rat. Too hot, it goes deeper. Too cold, it climbs toward the surface and piles into a warm cuddle heap. Yeah, it's a mammal like you, but it runs like a snake. Still laughing at it because you're too proud to need anyone to stay warm? But that cuddle pile saves it a fortune in energy, and it ages ridiculously slowly. 30 years from now, you'll be old and alone. The mole rat, cuddled up and still looking 16. Now who's laughing? This is a pistol shrimp. During World War II, US ships hid under the noise of a whole colony of these guys, so Japanese sonar couldn't pick them out. Sounds fake, I know. But how does a swarm of tiny shrimp out-hack the technology of the Axis military? The pistol shrimp has one big claw and one small one. Here's the big one. The wiggly part has a little bump, and underneath there's a hollow socket. When it snaps the claw shut, the water in that socket gets fired out in a jet so fast that the pressure drops, the water flash boils into a bubble, and that bubble instantly explodes, blasting out a shockwave that kills. Yeah, the prey doesn't get pinched, it gets shot. And that explosion, not two claws clacking together, is what makes this sound. Now picture a whole colony of them snapping non-stop, and imagine how loud that gets. On top of that, the blast hits a temperature so high that it was 1 degree away from being named the Sunmaker. But if you've made it this far, and you're thinking of starting a pistol shrimp farm to solve the global energy crisis, my condolences, that little sun lasts less than 100 millionth of a second. But the pistol shrimp's got a problem. A shockwave goes out in every direction. So how does it survive its own blast? Turns out, it's got a special piece of armor over its brain. The layer of water inside swallows the shockwave and squirts it back out through a slit. Some people cut this armor off a few shrimp and hit them with a shockwave. They immediately started swimming in circles like they were drunk, while the ones that kept theirs just calmly cruised home. Yeah, humans have been struggling to build a blast helmet for soldiers for years. This shrimp solved it before we even figured out gunpowder. This is a tardigrade. People see it survive naked in outer space and call it immortal. But it's not. It just knows one trick. It can hit pause on death. And yeah, it's not a bacteria, it's just tiny. Tardigrades have two modes. In normal mode, drifting around in moss, it's as fragile as anything else. One of your fingers could wipe out its whole family tree. But its secret weapon is Mode 2. The second things get dangerous, it curls into a ball called a ton, pulls almost all the water out of its body, leaves behind a protein it already had, which hardens into something like glass, and shuts its metabolism down completely. Now it's basically a speck of glass, just floating. So why does turning into a speck of glass let it pause death? First, let's talk about you. You're 70% water, packed with cells working non-stop to keep you alive. And here's the tardigrade in ton mode. Lose about 15% of your water, and your cells shrivel and clump together, your blood thickens, your whole national delivery system grinds to a halt, and you die. Basically, you're a water balloon that walks around and orders pizza. No water, no you. Look over at the tardigrade. Surprise! It's got no water left to lose. Another lovely day, you decide to climb into the freezer to escape the world. Your body freezes solid, the water in you turns into sharp little ice crystals, and you die. Not from the cold, but because your own cells got stabbed apart from the inside. Look over at the tardigrade. No water left to turn into ice. You're soaking in a hot spring, but 100 degrees Fahrenheit isn't hardcore enough for you, so you crank it to 300. What happens? Simple version. The proteins in your body normally fold up like this, and when it gets too hot, they unravel, stick together, and that's the moment you cook, just like an egg. And here's the scary part. You can't unboil an egg. Look over at the tardigrade. Remember the glass? It already turned itself into a fossilized nugget. Those proteins can't unravel if they can't even move. Now for the scariest one. Space. A vacuum, minus 450 degrees Fahrenheit. But out there, you won't die from the cold. You'll die from boiling. Sounds fake, I know. Think of it like this. Pressure holds water down as a liquid. Heat pushes it up into vapor. At normal pressure, you'd have to hit 212 degrees Fahrenheit before heat wins. On top of Everest, where there's less pressure, 160 is enough. And in space, pressure is 0, so your own body heat is already enough to make the water in you boil. You'd feel your own saliva bubbling. Your body swells to twice its size. 15 seconds later, you pass out. 90 seconds later, you're dead. Remember that tardigrade out in space from the start? In 2007, they threw a bunch of them out there. Naked, full vacuum, UV blasting straight down. Back on Earth, it lived, and laid eggs like nothing happened. This is a crow, a bird that's unsettlingly human. You've heard crows mate for life and figured they've got one partner forever? Nope. When one dies, the other mourns for a while, calls less, and people have even seen it go back to the tree where it used to live with its old mate. But after a while, sometimes up to 2 years, it goes looking for someone new. But here's the thing, while they're together, if a partner gets injured or its fertility drops, DNA tells a different story. About 1 in 5 chicks in the nest isn't the father's, and dad raises it without a clue, nature quietly hedging its bets. Crows understand death, so when one dies, the others gather around and make a huge racket. People assume it's a funeral, but really they're just being nosy, figuring out how this crow died so they don't make the same mistake. And part of what they're working out is where the danger came from. So if they catch you standing near the dead one, they'll instantly file you under disgusting, like pineapple on pizza, and steer clear. Be nice to a crow, and it'll thank you with random little gifts. But cross it once, and it'll remember your face, come after you, and treat you as an enemy for years, even if you're wearing a mask. And it doesn't stop there. It'll tell the rest of the flock, and its own kids and grandkids, that you're a bad guy, which basically makes them the CIA. They somehow know exactly what you did to their cousin's friend's grandfather 3 years and 47 days ago. And any guess why a flock of crows you've never met is dive-bombing you while you walk your dog? One lived to 960. One fires a tiny sun inside your fish tank. One shrugs off outer space like it's nothing. And one will remember your face for the rest of your life. And there's a whole pile of other ridiculous creatures I haven't even gotten to. Subscribe so I can expose them. Sounds fake, I know.